when it's stretched. And now that it's stretched, I'm going to paint and color the image. I'm going to add like a sunset sky with clouds to the sky and do that with oils. And then the rest of the image I'm going to color that with acrylics. So let's start with cerulean blue and a lot of white. I printed this on Breathing Colors glass crystalline canvas. I like this canvas because it doesn't really need any treatment afterwards, like a varnish or a spray, and the ink doesn't run, so you can even wipe over it with your fingers and the ink just stays on. That's why it's also good to paint over it, because if you use like acrylics, I'm using oils here, but later on I'm going to use acrylics, it doesn't remove the ink that easily. I mean, it can wipe off if you go over it a couple of times, but that would happen faster if you use a canvas in which the ink doesn't really, in which the ink does need a varnish. And then I want to quickly transition into a purple. So this is cobalt violet. And we'll blend that with the previous layer. This was actually an HDR photo, so I took 3 photos of this church at about 8 o'clock in the morning. So the sky was actually all blue, but the sun was kind of behind it, and so the front of the church was in deep shadows. And so I wanted to have an exposure right for the final photo. So the middle photo was an exposure of about 1/60th of a second at f/16, and the other 2 were 2 stops below and 2 stops above. And add more violet. Actually, I want that violet to start earlier, so I'm going a little bit more into the blue here. Now I want to transition more into like an orange. going to more red first. Probably need some more white. And I should have done that first, but I want to tape off some of the church to keep straight lines. Don't need to do it here. It can be a little bit more blended in here with the trees. Maybe even here. But the church I would like to have straight lines. So I'm going to do that now. So here's some masking tape. This is the little green church, as it's known among the locals. It's just south of the airport in Mammoth Lakes, California. I've driven by it many times, and at some point I thought, okay, now I have to take a picture of it. I think this should do. I'm hoping that around the trees here I don't need tape because it kind of is going to blend in anyway. So at least now I don't have to be too careful around the top of the church here. Some yellow, not sure if I need it yet. At some point I want to have a nice orange down here. I'm blending it in a little bit with the previous layers. slightly too dark. So yeah, I'm just dabbing in, trying to go between the leaves. Okay. More red. There we go. I love these types of gradients, these sunset and sunrise color gradients. So that's why I like to use oil here, because it allows me to give it a nice smooth transition, blends well. So that's an impression of clouds. I think that now is a good color for this. Now it's time to add some of that yellow. A little more. Kind of dabbing on the brush in between here. More yellow. So now we're moving slowly into more orange. I'm going to, later on I'm going to add even more yellow, so going towards it like a yellow, orange yellow background. Guess I can go a little bit inside the tree. With a smaller brush, I want to add some light at the bottom of these clouds here. Again, a little bit more yellow. I'll use a smaller brush for here now.
Is that Bodie?
It's close to Bodie, actually. It's like maybe like half an hour apart from each other. This is Mammoth Lakes. Didn't you learn to snowboard there? Yeah, it was on Mammoth Mountain. No, it was June Lake. No, Mammoth Mountain. Now I forgot.
No, it was. The mountain was named after something. It wasn't. I don't remember it being near a lake. But I think it was like June Mountain, maybe.
It was. Well, you learned to snowboard in the area here.
That would seem a bit weird, because it was snowing where it was, and that's more of a desert.
Well, this is the area. This is just south of Mammoth Lakes, but it's pretty much the same altitude as the town. I think. Mammoth Mountain, of course, is a lot taller. Yeah, where was I? Because I wasn't there.
You were at home.
I was. Did I have an art show somewhere?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think you were at home.
Okay. Bye. That was my daughter Katie stopping by. Just bring in some dots here and there. Another blob of white. Mammoth Lakes, and as well as this church, are in the so-called Long Valley Caldera. It's a very interesting region because this is one of the largest calderas in the world, and it was formed as a result of the Bishop Tuff eruption, which is considered a super eruption, which happened about 760,000 years ago. This whole area is still volcanically active, and actually not far from this church there's a river where there are hot springs below it. I think I need to pull this back a little. Get some sky here. I'm going to have to turn this image around. So I can have a better look. Yeah, that's sky too. Okay, I think I want to pull off the tape already. So the sky is done. I want to, like I said earlier, color the rest with acrylic glazes. Not sure I have to wait. It's going to take a long time to dry. But I think I want to remove the tape already. I'm afraid if it gets all dry, I might pick up pieces of paint later. It's actually quite fun to see this. Hopefully this goes right. It's not perfect, but it's not too bad either. And now we'll do the acrylics. I am ready to color the image now. So I'm going to use glazing liquid from Golden to make glazes. And these are the colors I'm going to use. There's a lot of green in this image, so I'll use a lot of chromium green. And then maybe desaturate it here and there with burnt sienna and add some yellow, cadmium yellow, to change it up a bit. So the church actually has a light green tint to it. It's called the Little Green Church. So let's start with making some green. So I'll start with the lightest color, the lightest green, and then I can add more green to it as I go along. Especially for the foreground, I would probably like it a little more saturated green here. Let's see what a good size brush is for this. I'm thinking probably this one. Yeah. You're probably wondering why I am not coloring the image also with oils, but oil glazes. Well, the reason is I have to use liquid. It's a very stinky substance, and I'm in my office here, so there's not good enough ventilation, so I prefer to use inside here with acrylics. Also, I recommend that you would start with the acrylics first, because they will dry very fast, and after that add the oils to the sky, because now the oils are not dry yet. It actually probably will take 2 weeks or so. So if you do it the other way around, if you start with the acrylics, it will dry with these glazes, maybe an hour or two. So then you wouldn't have any trouble or any problems when you slightly go over it. You wouldn't mess up the acrylics. Now I have a chance of like hitting the oils and messing it up a little bit. Especially here in the tree area. There's black here around the church, so I don't have to. I won't get near the sky. However, with the trees I will. So we'll see how that goes. The reason why I did it in this order is I couldn't help myself. I wanted to add in that sky. I wanted to see what that looked like, and I didn't have the patience to wait for the acrylics to dry. So that's why. So let's see if this is a good color. It's a little too subtle. It's actually not that bad. still, I'll add a tiny little bit more green. It's probably still good color. Yeah, let's go with this. Just wiping it off slightly with my finger here. Okay. I believe originally this was a Presbyterian church, and I don't think it's in function as a church anymore. Kind of following the direction of the bricks. So if any brush strokes show, it will go in the right direction. Okay, I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to add a little bit more of that green to the glaze. Let's see. I'm going to add a little bit more of a brown here. But this is a good color for right in between. Here I want it more saturated. Okay, more green. And in fact, I think this is where I would like to add a touch of yellow. This is a little too thick. So we're removing a little bit of that paint. You can see I don't have to follow all the details, all the little leaves and little tiny branches. It's a glaze, and it will keep the darker areas still come through. So you can do big surfaces at once like this. Okay, add some color to the back here. Yeah, I would want to add some more yellow. So same thing again, removing a little bit here. And it's always nice to add some different highlights here and there, so different colors. So I'm adding a little bit more yellow here. I'm just going to add a few touches here and there. Okay, So the glaze was a little too thick, so I'm adding a little bit more of the glazing liquid. And then that color I'm going to use for the trees. So let's flip it around. Okay, touch the oil paint there. So really I'm thinning this glaze a little bit more. And I'm also adding in that slight yellow that I added earlier. So let's do the bigger areas first here, far away from the oil. Okay, now let's take a smaller brush and we'll go a little bit closer to where the oil paint is. This is another good reason to do it the other way around, really. First do the acrylic, then the oil. Because if you go with oil over the acrylic, that's fine. Acrylic over oil doesn't work that well. But the acrylic will stick to the canvas where there's no oil. There, doesn't look too bad. Let's do this other tree here. Okay. And now I'm taking some burnt sienna. I'll take the other brush again. Pick a little bit of burnt sienna. Add that into my mix here. And we get like a brownish green. Maybe that's a little too much, so I'll add more green. It's a little too brown. Yeah, that's better. So now we have a mix of different greens in here. It's not all the same. Okay. And then I would like to remove it here and there where it was a little bit too thick. Like this area. And then I grab some more yellow. In fact, I think I want to start a new color. Don't need much. Take my small brush. Take some of that yellow. Bit of burnt sienna. But this kind of more looks like raw sienna now. And I would like to use that in the back here. Yeah, that looks good. And on this side, and then I'll do some touches of that in here too. I don't like that color. Maybe here. And we're done. This is probably not going to look very good with my green screen behind me, so I might have to turn it off. Anyway, here is the result. So we have a painted in sky with oils, opaque oils, and then the rest is colored with acrylic glazes. If you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you would like to see more of my work, also please subscribe to my channel. And I will see you next time.